There we go. Good evening, and welcome back to Mystic Hour, a live podcast about all things mystical and nerdy, right here on Proficiency Bonus. I'm your host, Christy MysticWater, and each week I will be having some chill roundtable chats with all sorts of awesome people discussing all the geeky fandoms, hobbies, and cultures. But before we begin, gonna do some quick shout outs. First of all, big thanks to our sponsor Streamlabs. They offer amazing tools for streaming with alerts and applications. Their widgets are really fun and easy to use, so you should definitely go check them out. Thank you, Streamlabs. And also, our other sponsor of the evening is DiceBar, dicebar.com. If you are interested in getting some dice or some cool D&D merchandise, like some hats or t-shirts or so all sorts of cool, like rainbow dice and stuff like that, go check them out at dicebar.com. And if you enter the promo code, the coupon code PROBO, P-R-O-B-O, you can get free expedited shipping. So definitely go check them out at dicebar.com. Thank you, DiceBar. Tonight we will be speaking to a few lovely ladies that I have been acquainted with, a couple that I've been playing D&D with for over a year, and another lovely lady from the Critical Role fandom. So, without further ado, we will start with our part 3 of the Women in D&D series that we've been playing. And everybody say hi! You are on stream now!
Hello!
Hi! So tonight we have Annie, Bree, and Kit. Got the 3-letter names. And yeah, so I'm just going to go around and get you guys to quickly introduce yourselves and who you are, where you're from. So let's start with Annie.
So full name is Annika, but Annie shortens it, makes it fun. And I am from northern Minnesota, so it's already getting cold up here. But yeah, I am part of Christy's Sunday game.
Yay. And next we have Bree.
Hi, I'm Bree, or Brianna, either one. I live in Virginia, and I'm also part of Christy's Sunday group.
Yay. And last but not least, we have Kit.
Hi, my name is Catfield. Kit also works. I live in Maryland.
Oh.
Yeah, hence my comments about Wawa and convenience stores. But my family is from... I lived a bunch of places, so I might just be referring to that. And I am not part of their existing D&D games. Dun dun dun!
Dun dun dun! The odd one out that I pulled from the Critical Role Fanclub. We were supposed to have another lovely lady from the Critical Role Fanclub from Facebook, but she is in the hospital right now. She has pneumonia. Pneumonia. And she's in the hospital, and she sent me a photo of her with an IV in her, and I'm like, please be healthy. So please feel better, Amanda. I hope you're feeling a little bit better and get well soon. We miss you.
And don't turn into a gnome. That would just be...
No.
Yeah.
I mean, might not be a bad idea. Gnomes are good.
Yeah, thanks. I play a gnome, by the way.
Yeah. Gnomes drive me crazy normally if it's not anything. Let's start off with just the basics so we all kind of know where we're established here. I'm going to ask you guys, when and how did you get into D&D? So go ahead, maybe Annie first.
So I've only been playing for about a year. The game that I play with Christy is actually the main one that I've played. But I got into it close to 2 years ago. I actually was listening to the Adventure Zone podcast by the McElroys, and I was in New Zealand, and we didn't have Wi-Fi that often, and my friend's like, hey, there's this really cool podcast that you should listen to that's fun, and I know you don't play D&D, but it's cool and funny. And I was like, okay, so I downloaded a bunch and then sort of listened to it as we were traveling around, and we didn't have Wi-Fi, so I was like, okay, that's all I have to do, and just fell in love with it. And I'm actually currently re-listening to their campaign for the 3rd time, but just that got me into it, and I realized this sounds really fun and is super creative, and I want to play this. And so then I just went on Roll20 and sent a thing to our DM, and Eric's like, yeah, sure, okay. And have been playing for about a year since. So, and really, really enjoying it.
So our campaign was your first campaign?
Yep.
Holy crap! I would have never known.
Yeah, I had
so
no idea what I was doing.
That's so cute. I didn't know.
I think we started at level 5, and I was just like, okay,
Yeah, 'cause
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, we were. That's
Yeah.
true. Because we had been playing for several months before you guys joined us. Probably like almost 6 months before you guys joined us. So we were already at like level 5 when you joined.
Yeah, so fun fact, I've never actually played a level 1 character.
Oh, that's so adorable.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, what about you, Bree? How did you? When and how did you get into it?
Okay, so it's really dumb, but I got into D&D because my sister was playing it, and she was playing it with a guy that I had a crush on, and I was like, oh no, she's not going to get all the time and attention from him. So I was like, well, I'm going to play just so I can monitor what's going on here. And I was like, oh, wow, I love this. This is great. I'm having so much fun. And I just kind of fell in love with it from there. And I've been playing it since 6th grade, on and off, 3.5 and 5e.
Wow.
But this is the game that I'm in with you guys on Sunday. Is my first game that I ever played without my sister. Because then, like, after that, we became like D&D friends. We always played games together.
Aww.
So yeah.
That's actually like really adorable that it worked out in that way.
Yeah, and we both hate the guy now, so it's
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Women in
That's
D&D
great.
unite. We don't need no man.
The power of spite compels
yeah, exactly.
Burning smite. 5th level. Let's go. What about you, Kit? When and how did you get into D&D?
Okay, so there was an attempt in the late 90s. I think probably when I was in 5th or 6th grade, because I had a family friend who played it. Her brother played it. And this was, I think, when they were moving from 2nd to 3rd edition.
Okay.
But the problem is that I was young and I was read as a woman, and so I got that bunch of gatekeeping guys trying to get out that young girl, kind of deal. And so I was like, okay, fine, I'll just, use the source books then, or I'll use the character designers and just kind of like make my own shit up. So fuck you guys. I'll take my own ball and go home.
Yeah.
So luckily over I did not play in high school. In university, I started playing again. So, deep into 3.5. Luckily, I was in a place where if I didn't have the books, I could just get used ones or, copy paste. And it was actually really fun because at that point, people were a little bit more chill. So I got into 3.5, I got into some of the related computer games, like Neverwinter Nights, which runs on modified 3.5.
Okay.
I got into playing like Planescape Torment, which was late 90s based on 2nd edition. But I started like getting into like not just the Faerun setting, but like other modules and shit. Now I've been playing 5th edition mostly since this year, but I've DM'd 5th since June.
Oh.
Both Adventures League organized play, and the house game I run, which is using the Tal'Dorei setting.
Ooh, yes.
We're also in Wildmount, so I'm very happy. Because the book, I love the Tal'Dorei book, but then you get to Wildmount and it's like, well,
Yeah, good luck. Have fun.
Good luck. And so I'm DMing for about 6 people, and
Was that the cat? Sorry, Kit. Was that...
that's okay. The cat's like, fuck this shit.
The cat might have just taken out their DVD player.
Oh no!
Oh no!
I'm currently house sitting for a kitten, so
Critical.
that's what that is for everyone who has no idea what we're talking about.
But
Sorry, kid.
I'm sure it's fine.
so it's my first time DMing a setting like the Critical Role setting.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a house game, so I'm just pulling in all sorts of stuff. Because I'm the DM, because I can do that.
Yeah.
Yay, improv.
And I'm assuming, like for running a game like that, I'm assuming you've like watched like all of Critical Role, and you kind of have like.
I'm actually not caught up.
Oh.
But I still have feels about episode 26 of campaign 2 though. So like I'm still getting over my Molly feels.
Yes. Fair.
Also because again, like I've been playing tieflings a lot, so I have some feels. But we had a player that had not played D&D ever, and the house game was her first game because she had watched Critical Role. So I kind of am kind of happy about that. Like, oh, of all the games you decided to join, it's me. Great. I mean, like, I'm glad, but like, no pressure, right?
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's very true because, like, when I first, like, my first experience with D&D was back in the 90s. My uncle was DMing, but he also, like, really dumbed it down because we were, like, really young. We were like,
my family
elementary
actually
school.
was against D&D. My mother was against D&D. My dad, interestingly enough, had played in college, but did not speak of it.
Oh.
So I didn't find this out until, like, after I'd already left home. And I was just like, man, secret nerd? Like, you could have told me this.
Yeah, where were you in my corner? Back me up.
You should have backed me up. Like, there should have been something there.
But it's kind of interesting because, Ani, you were watching, what was it, The Adventure Zone?
Yep, listening to it.
Listening to it. So, who's the DM for that one?
So it's done by the McElroy brothers.
Okay.
Okay.
Griffin McElroy, and then his two brothers, Justin and Travis, and his dad, Clint, are the people who are playing.
Okay.
They're wonderful people, by the way.
They're so good.
They're so wonderful.
I just find it interesting, like, that, like, for the most part, most people I talk to, like, most of their first experiences, like, if it's not, like, through family or friends at a really young age, their first exposure to the game is through people like that, like Matt Mercer or the McElroy brothers. Like, you set the bar high, and then you're like,
that's
like,
really high.
And you're like, I wanna do what they're doing, but you're not gonna get the same experience usually.
Well, usually, and I kind of see that. Don't get me wrong, I love a lot of the Critical Role fans are amazing, but like, especially having been used to playing D&D before.
Yeah.
Like, look, these guys are trained voice actors.
Yeah.
They're trained actors doing improv. They know exactly when they have to be on.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And especially on camera, and it's about being on camera versus
you're still
like
on.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, meanwhile, I'm still scheduling games, knowing we're gonna have at least an hour of just us shitting around. Like, I know.
True.
Like, even if we're really good with voices or improv or details or something, like, there's always people sort of transitioning from whatever their day was to being on, and it takes most people some time, unless you're an actor or theater, you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm gonna, I know I gave us, like, a list of topics, but I'm gonna kind of jump ahead a little bit since we're talking about this. What are your impressions, like, how do you feel like, say, a live game that you have in a very personal setting at home, at the table is, versus, like, say, an online game, like, even if it's not streamed, like, just online on video and audio only versus a live game? Have you guys had experiences versus one or the other, and what are your preferences? What are, like, dislikes, likes, like, what do you feel like are the differences there?
I've never played a live game before. Like,
Even with the guy you liked?
No, that was online too.
Oh, damn.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to say I feel old, but I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, he lived in a different state than I did.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you had to do it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I tried one time to do like a real life game at like an adventurers league.
Oh, okay,
but I walked in and everybody kind of just stared at me. They were like,
Yep.
"What is she doing here? Like,
Yep.
what?"
Yeah,
Like,
that actually got me out of playing D&D for a long time, as I mentioned.
The gatekeeping, the fact
Yeah.
that it's
Yeah.
like, who are you and
Yeah.
what are you doing in our like bubble?
I
And
asked
also
the guy at the
testing.
front.
The testing
oh
thing
my
was a
gosh.
big thing. Yeah.
The guy at the front desk like looked at me and I was like, "Hey, I'm here to play D&D," and he was like, "Really?" And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm here to play D&D. I want to play 5e, blah blah blah." And he's like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Okay, I'm leaving."
Wow.
Oh, there's a comic and like tabletop store, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't going there for tabletop initially, but it's that kind of store where they have like comic trades and they have tables and
like the Wizards game, like the, Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, and so I'm there asking about one of the Sandman graphic novels. And this guy like starts giving me like, well, I don't think that exists. And I'm like, no. This particular one did. It was an edition with Yoshitaka Amano. Like, and I'm just like, look, I have seen this. I've held it in my hands. I know this exists. Like, don't. Well,
but because you're a woman,
Yeah.
you're like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, there's no such
Oh
thing.
no! It even took him like a few minutes just because I came in with a friend of mine. Like, he wouldn't talk to me initially. He would talk to my friend. So like already by this point, I'm like, look, So, but I'm like, okay, look, he's gonna check the system, and he checks the system, and then he's like, oh, and because it's a one-off novel, it was the Dream Hunters, which is a very lovely story in the Sandman series. He then kind of does that testing thing, like, have you actually read the Sandman? And I'm just like, look, like, I haven't been to that store since. I'm just
obviously,
like, look,
yeah, no.
like,
fair.
I don't care if this is one of the places that has tables for tabletop and stuff. Like, I am not coming back here again.
Mm-mm.
And I didn't even tell him that. I just walked out. I'm just
Yeah,
like, nope.
you kind of did what Bree did. Like, okay, never mind then. If you're
Like,
gonna
okay,
like question
like,
me, and
yeah.
the fact that like you even went up there and were asking like, I want to play, like that should be enough. Like that you shouldn't have to
Yeah.
like test to be like, are you sure? Like, no, I'm just asking you for the fuck of it. Like, of course I'm sure. I'm asking you. Like,
It was
Yeah.
so annoying. It was so annoying. I was just like,
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't understand. I'm like, I'm asking you if I can play. Like, it's not like I read the sign and was like, oh, Dungeons and Dragons, guess I'll play that today. Like, no one walks up and is like, hey,
I mean, I've
I'm
seen
gonna play
people
a game
do
I've
that.
never heard
Though,
of.
but, like, I've seen people do that though, where like they come into the store. It's actually happened at it more recently. Different store, obviously. The store also had Magic the Gathering, Friday Night Magic.
usually, yeah.
Yeah, and so the guy walked in and he was like, "Yeah, I came here wanting to play Magic, but like nobody was there yet." And he didn't want to just sit around, so he ends up in the Adventures League game, not having played D&D before.
Wow.
And luckily the DM like actually had spare sheets.
Spare
done up.
sheets, yeah.
Yeah, like he had spare
That's good.
sheets. Pre-generated characters, you just put your name on it, kind of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But, like, what are the odds of someone doing that? You
But,
know?
like,
Yeah, true. I
Yeah.
mean, like they have it as a backup just in case. But
Yeah,
really, like
yeah.
no DM is prepared for someone to just walk in,
Walk in
never
and be like,
played
I've
the
never
game,
played before.
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
but like the fact that a dude could do that
but a girl
and like
can't.
not really get shit for it, and the girl is like, well, are you sure you want to play D&D, like,
Mm.
or and you sometimes still get this of like, oh, you just heard about it from the Adventure Zone. I'm like, are you really giving somebody who wants to play like shit? Like, really? Are we still doing this?
Mm.
Yeah.
They want to play, just let them play. Like, just yeah. Just
What
let 'em
about
play.
you, Annie? Have you had any
I
experience
feel-
with that, or like live versus online, or just gatekeeping
So
in general?
I've played a total of one live game, and I was incredibly sick, so I fell asleep for half of it.
All right, all right.
So,
You've told me the story. I forgot
yeah.
about this.
yeah. So I guess technically that was my first experience with D&D because it was like a week before I started playing with you guys, but I don't really count it because, like I said, I was asleep for half of it. And like the person who was DMing, like incredibly nice. It was actually, I think the makeup was 4 girls and 2 guys.
Oh, that's nice.
But it was
Nice.
like the first time any of us had ever played together. A lot of us hadn't really ever played at all, and it was just a bunch of people who like we worked together, and so it wasn't a
always
super
awkward.
cohesive group. Yeah.
It's always
So like there was one person who's like one of my best friends, and then a bunch of people that I don't really know, and so it was like, and I was incredibly sick, and so like I fell asleep, and they just sort of finished, and then woke me up and like, it's time to go, and I'm like, okay.
Michael in Twitch chat says, I'd love a table of all new players that have never played before. I think that would be a blast. So I think, yeah, I agree. I would love
Yeah.
it. Like, if I were to
it didn't work well for
yeah,
us.
true. But I think, because like I'm a player first and foremost, I've DM'd one shot. But I feel like if I were to DM, I'd probably feel less pressure doing with a bunch of people that have never played bore. Because then I'm like, if I screw up, they don't know. They don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, and that's actually, I've DM'd a few sessions of an online campaign that through another group that I'm part of, and that it's actually my sister who hasn't really played much, and then 2 other people who haven't played, and one person who sort of pops in now that has played some before and is like, if you need any help, just let me know. But I've had a lot of fun like creating a world, and they're all like, we have no idea what we're doing, and I'm like, neither do I, and they're like, that's
Yes!
great! You know? So it's nice because like we don't have any worries about anyone being like a rule lawyer or anything like that, because there's like, we don't know the rules. And so it works out pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a mix in my house game, where you had people that had played maybe like a few times, but not regularly. There's a girl who hadn't played at all, and then we had like me and my partner who like has been playing since they were like 10 or something ridiculous. And so it's like, well, if you need help, you have somebody you can go to. But we're playing a house game, and so I'll do what makes sense. Like, don't worry about the rules. Like, just talk to me, and we're cool.
That's what's nice
Just
about
talk to
5e.
me, and we're cool.
Yeah, and that's what's nice about 5e. It's a very flexible version of the system. Like you can bend the rules as needed. Like you don't have to like keep to like. There's so many rule lawyers and stuff, but I find like 5e is personally made for that like introductory level where you don't have to focus on the rules so much, especially in the beginning.
Well, I always went by the rule of any rule can be bent.
Yeah, I agree.
If you have a good story and people are having fun, any rule.
And that's the important thing is people are having fun.
Yeah,
for sure.
And having played in 3.5, I do not miss the stat like how the stats worked. Because what the hell? It was like you progressed 0.5, and it was just like, okay, look, 5e was just like, if you're proficient in it, get this.
Yep.
If you're not
it's
proficient,
way more streamlined for sure.
It's more streamlined.
Because like I remember playing back in the 90s, and I think we were playing AD&D or like second edition.
Second edition.
I can't remember. Like I can't remember which one he had. I know it was like one of the very first editions though, and
did you have to roll for your class?
No, because like I said, like we were kids, so he let us play who we wanted to play. Like he totally bent the rules for us even back then. But still, he ended up doing majority of like the math and calculations for us because we didn't know what the hell we were doing. It was way too complicated for our little minds to like comprehend. But even back then, I was like, this is so hard. Like the fun part was the RP and like finding the treasure. But like when it comes to like the battles, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Uncle, help me! Like I didn't know. Whereas 5e now, like I pretty much taught myself how to play 5e thanks to Critical Role.
It's so easy.
Simply by just watching.
So yeah, and also especially because there's the web series that use 5e, Adventure Stone Critical Role, and also at least in my case, between 3.5 and 5e, I also play different systems that were meant for different things. And so D&D was like my baseline, right? Like everybody kind of has an idea. You have your elves, humans, archers, you know, kind of you have your basic idea. You know, I tried playing Shadowrun. I have so many D6s.
Yeah.
So many dice.
All the D6s.
I've tried playing Fate. I've tried playing. I actually enjoy games like Vampire the Masquerade because I had a really good.
I really want to try that. I've never played it, but I really want to try that game.
Yeah, talk to me about that later.
Oh, we will.
It's one of my favorite games. But like, there's different systems that emphasize different things, right? And certain games maybe they might flat out say this is a game for storytellers, you know. Yeah, if the stats don't make sense to you, then feel free to bend it. You know, do what makes sense with the story.
And that's why I love 5e so much.
And 5e was really, they kind of took all that in mind.
Yeah, for sure. Especially like for like an introductory, like first players. Well, speaking of like your very first time playing D&D, what was your guys' first impression going into the game, and how has that impression changed to now? Like, do you remember your very first impression of a game, and how has that changed? Like, how do you feel now? Bree?
I did not like clerics when I was playing.
Oh, really?
Okay, so part of it was, again, like my first experiences, because I was the girl of the group. So some of it was that, and some of it was also like AD&D.
Yeah, we lost Bree.
Oh,
there she is.
Some of it was also like 2nd edition and 3.5, just being so weird with the stats. At least for me at the time. But,
yeah.
Like, oh my god, I hated when people were telling me, like, you have to play this because we don't have a healer. Or, like, we don't have a caster. And, like, I just, yeah, like,
So is it fair to say when you, like, so, like, did they force you to play the cleric because they didn't have a healer?
One group did, and then I couldn't make sense because it was a casting class, and this was, like...
Back then, yeah.
2nd edition. I'm sitting there going, what the hell is this? Like, and nobody would explain it to me because they're like, oh, it's, you know, they wanted to kick me out of the table is what was going on. But like, I avoided playing clerics up until this year, in tabletop. I had characters that like used healing or like they would do other things, but.
So you could say, like, from the beginning, when you were, like... Turned off by clerics simply because you were forced because they had no healer, versus now you're, like, more open to it.
Like, it's one thing if I was interested in the class, right?
Right.
But, like, if you just start out with a new person being like, oh, we don't have this role, you have to be that role now, then that kind of takes, like, wait, so why am I even creating a character?
Yeah,
like,
it takes the choice away from you. It takes it takes the choice. It takes the fun away from you. Because, like, then you don't even get to explore what you might like. It's just kind of forcing you into the position.
Though I did kind of have an interval when I was playing MMOs where I was playing a healer, and I got so salty. I mean, I chose to be a healer, which was fine, but, like, I got so salty playing a healer. Healers
just be like Laura Bailey. I have to waste all my spell slots healing you people.
Well, actually, MMOs, it was more like, why is the DPS running into the fire, you idiot?
Oh yeah. What are you doing?
Yeah. Then it was just like, okay, no, why are you pissing me off?
Yeah,
like,
I've been there, done that.
Don't do that shit.
I was also the DPS that did that shit because I didn't know any better. What about you, Bree? What was your first impression versus now?
Of D&D in general?
Yeah, in general.
At first, I was really confused because, like, the guy whose game I joined, it was a homebrew game, and he just went totally left with it. So not only was I trying to learn 3.5 rules, I was trying to learn his homebrew rules. If he had homebrew, like he was like, we're not using the regular races. I've made my own races, and like I was like, this is too much. Like I don't understand anything that's happening. And I asked him about doing 5th edition, and at the time he was like, oh, that's for babies. It's way too easy. Like. And I was like, oh my god, I can't handle this.
Version Wars, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
So once I finally started playing 5, I was like, okay, now I get it. Now it's fun. Because I was just so lost. I was like, I'm only playing this because of my sister. And I liked it. I liked the art, like the role-playing part of it, but I hated like fights because his fights in that game would go on for like 2 sessions, and I'm just like, I'm so tired. Can we please like get on with the story? I'm so tired. It was just so aggravating. But now, you know, with a actually decent DM, no shade, no tea. It's much more
we
fun.
love you, Eric.
Like, yeah, love you, Eric.
Well, and some of that is also like. DMs have styles, and so do players, right?
True.
So, like,
and it's about finding like a good combination between like DM and players. Like if you find a DM that's not working for you, and vice versa with players, like it's very easy to be like no offense to you, you're probably a good person and a nice person, but your gaming style just isn't for me. And it's totally fair to just step out if it's not your style.
Yeah. I've seen groups that are like, we just want to go as far as we can in a dungeon and explore the dungeon. Fine. You have to get yourself a DM that does that, right? If you have a DM that really likes story shit and like intrigue and, you know, all that, and you have a group that is very much let us go hack and slash some monsters.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not gonna work out really well. Or at least it's going to be a lot harder.
Because, like, our DM, I feel like he's got so much, like, political intrigue and stuff, and then our group has just got so much, like, drama, like, inter-party drama. We have so much just, like, we can get there eventually, but we're still dealing with our internal drama first. And he's just like, well, there's this stuff you can do, but okay, you're just going to sit in the tavern and fight yourselves. Okay, have fun. And that's what we do to him.
That. Yeah. We're talking about our feelings.
Like, as long as everyone's cool with that, and you have a DM that's cool with that, it's fine.
I mean, he hasn't complained yet.
We haven't given him a chance to.
True, we never give him a chance to. We just do what we want.
Yeah, I was talking to someone and they're like, oh, so like you've been playing for, this was when I'd been playing for like a month or two, and he's like, oh yeah, so you've been playing, like how have you liked it? I'm like, yeah, I think we've gotten through maybe 48 hours total in-game time, like, and they're just like,
wait, what? Wait, what?
I'm like, yeah, we talk a lot. And like, in that same time, we've covered like a year of in-game time, and like that doesn't work for us.
No, it doesn't.
Our game is literally like the best telenovela ever. Like, so much drama. Like, it makes no sense.
I mean, when was the last time we had a proper, like, encounter battle? I don't even remember.
I think it was the dragon.
Was it the dragon? That was a while ago.
No, when we jumped those guys, when Maxian jumped out.
Oh, so just after the dragon.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
We had a few sessions where we fought, like, every session, but most of the time we just...
We mostly just talked. We pretty much just... It was very... Ours is very RP heavy and not, like, a dungeon crawl at all. But what about you, Annie? What was your first impression going in, and, like, versus, like, in the beginning versus now?
Yeah, so, like, for me, I definitely... So, like I said, I started out... It's so good. I started out with the Adventure Zone, which is, like, it was a new GM and 3 people who had never played before, and so pretty much what Griffin did was, like, I'm gonna ignore the rules of, like, you need to have provisions and stuff like that, and I'm not gonna make you forage for food. Yeah. And so, like, I was like, okay, this is the style I like. I like this sort of very heavy storytelling, you know, like, they get into battles, but always seems to, like, has a purpose, and they still have time for funny quips and stuff like that. And so when I was looking for a game, I was really worried that it was like, okay, now make sure you have enough provisions for these many days of travel. And like, so I was actually really cautious of that when I was looking for my first game. And so I think I got incredibly lucky with how Eric runs the game, because it's not like, and if it takes us like actual time to do traveling, it's because we're talking or like something is happening. It's not like, okay, now please roleplay 20 hours of walking in the woods. Go. Like,
and like throw in a random perception check here and there every like hour of gameplay. Like, oh, I guess we should do perception. I guess, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and so like I really like that, how like that for me has just worked out really well. Is I like that sort of more roleplay heavy, and I love the fact that we have like different different dramas in our group, and like they sort of reflect some like current social issues that are being talked about, and so we can sort of talk about it in, I guess, a safe space.
Very much so, yeah.
Where it's not quite as personal because we're like role playing through these characters, and it works so well, and it like is a nice time to sort of decompress. And I didn't expect that because I got into D&D like right as sort of my depression was getting worse, and I just got diagnosed with a chronic illness, and
me too.
life was not going well, and I wasn't like going out and hanging out with people or anything. And now like I get really sad whenever we don't have a session on Sunday because I'm like,
it's real. It's real.
It's very true.
And
that
so
outlet is real.
Yeah, you guys are my social interaction.
Yep.
And so like it's become so important to like my life, and I love it so much. And so I've lost most of that concern, like, oh, they're going to make me calculate rations, like that.
Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah.
Like talking about the social issues in our group, like my character is like slightly based off of my sister. Actually, because I made Murrah, who is my half-orc character for y'all who are listening who don't know.
I guess people that know.
He is trans. He is amazing. He is a flirt, and it's everything my sister isn't. So he's female to male trans, and my sister is male to female trans. And my sister's asexual. Murrah's a hoe. So it's like total opposite from her, which I told her about it and she loves. So I'm really close with the character because of that. And it was really nice to be in a group that kind of understood it, and it played into the story, which was nice.
Oh, I actually had a similar, not quite similar, and it wasn't D&D. So I played different systems, and I was in a game of, I think it was a crossover. So it was like Mage the Awakening, I think.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, so I was playing a mage, but IID is non-binary, and so I was like, I'm gonna play a, male-identified non-binary character. Because, fuck it, why not? Like, I just got to that stage in character creation where I'm just like, that sounds cool, I'll just go with it. And so I made it, and so, I have this kind of snarky spy character going on, and it's actually kind of neat because the group was like, okay, we haven't played with a non-binary person or character in our groups before. Should we just occasionally do pronoun checks? Like, we'll just check in with you as well as a character, and we'll just occasionally ask pronouns. And we'll do this around the group, like, just to make sure, hey, these are our pronouns, this is our names, this is our gender today, which sounds really silly.
Awesome.
But
I don't think that's silly. I love that idea because...
But it's like, it sounds kind of, like, for me it was actually really awesome, because I'm just like, oh shit, like, you're talking to a gender fluid person who can, some days the character feels more masculine, and so they're like, no, he is fine, just he, like, totally cool. And the fact that it kind of made them to remember to check in was really awesome.
And it also translates outside of game, because if they meet a non-binary person out of game, they're going to be a little bit more conditioned, and like just out of habit will then check in.
And it was really cool because the DM was like, yeah, I know, like, because he also knew me outside of game, and he was like, okay, like, I know you use they, but let's just check in with the characters, and then that way we get, like, confirmation of who's playing what, and where people are at. And the fact that we had, and these weren't regular check-ins, these weren't, like, check-ins at the start of every session, but, like...
Every so often.
Every so often, yeah. And every so often, they'd find a way, character-wise, to be like, oh, how are you today? And they're like, oh, okay, that character's obvious,
I like it because it does bring up the social commentary, especially with our game with Mura, when Mura was outed and our Rosham found out that technically Mura's a girl, and his character, not his like not Aaron, but his character Rosham just freaked the fuck out on Mura. It was like, you lied to me, you broke my trust, and it was like a whole social commentary that's very real in real life that I'm sure is a very real issue, and we dealt with it in game. It was so intense and so beyond, like, it was so real, but it was amazing.
I was gonna say, like, oh man, I'm glad that it worked out and that it got worked out, like, in game, in character, because I get really kind of nervous when that comes up. So
we all kind of like had a, like, my character had to take his character aside. He's like, look, Mura is Mura, regardless if it's a he or a she. Like, Mura is Mura.
Like, however,
and it was very much a social commentary of what's going on nowadays. Like, that's what we're dealing with, social issues, and we're playing with it in game. And Eric allowed us the freedom to do that. And but of course, at the end of the session, we all checked in and made sure everybody was okay and no feelings were hurt. And everyone was felt safe in that environment.
Yeah, checking in outside of group and doing things like Veils or X-Card really helps. Because sometimes, like, it's great to have that outlet in game where you can work through it. But sometimes, especially when it gets, like, too raw, right? You're like, no, I can't. I'm not in that space right now. And it could be anything. It could be, gender. It could be, even characters having relationships. Like, it could bring up something.
Bring it around to romance and D&D. Bring it in.
Because you're playing D&D. Like, you're playing D&D. You know that shit happens. But, like, and sometimes something may come up and you're like, oh shit, like, I didn't mean to bring up this really heavy subject, but here we are.
And it happens. Like, it happens. And it happened on our Friday game. Like, it happened when Mulfin pretty much isolated my character from the other characters, and we, like, split the party emotionally because Mulfin did something. And Matthew, the guy who plays Mulfin, felt so bad he had to check in, and he's like, I can't tell if Christy's mad at me or not, or if it's just Callista. I'm like, no, it's just Callista. I thought it was brilliant. Christy thought the whole scenario was brilliant, but Callista's pissed. It's fine. We're good. And we always check in to make sure, like, when something emotional or, like, there's a fight in party, like, we always check in because you don't want that toxicity level to build. And that's happened in our Sunday game, not with these ladies. It happened with a guy that's already left. And toxicity built. And it almost forced me to leave the game. Thankfully, he left the game and I didn't have to. But it's always important to check in because I feel like if you don't check in, there could be resentment building. And you wouldn't even know if you don't talk about it.
Not even resentment. Like, it could be resentment.
Or uncomfortable. People are just feeling uncomfortable. Discomfort.
Not being listened to. Having that feeling that you're not being listened to, or that, because, like, emotional bleed over is a thing. It's a huge thing. And you could kind of, in a lot of games you kind of have an idea of, like, oh, it's the character doing this, it's not me being a jerk, right? But sometimes
sometimes they use it as an excuse to be a jerk. Oh, it's my character, but really you just want to be a jerk.
No, really, that's you. Like, we all know. We all have those stories. Like, we know someone who's done that.
Oh, yeah.
In our Sunday game, it's not uncommon for us to spend, like, 2 or 3 hours afterwards just talking. So it's like, oh, I need to go to work. Get up at work at 6 in the morning, and it's currently 4 in the morning. I really need to go to bed. I'm sorry. Like,
oh shit, it's 2 in the morning. I gotta get up at 5.
Yeah, exactly.
And I really love our after session talks because, like,
so good.
It's so good to, like, get into the character, but I also love that no one in our group takes that information back into the game to use it.
Right.
Like, it's always like, oh, my character made this choice and it's so dumb because such and such, and it's like, okay, but my character doesn't know that, so you know, I have to figure that out later.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah. I love
And
that.
we'll also be like, so wait, what does your character currently think of mine? I just gotta know.
Is your character mad at mine right now?
Yeah,
It's like,
you
yeah.
actually.
Yeah, we actually had. Yeah.
Yeah, in our game, it was actually my character that did out Mura because it was the first time I'd ever tried drugs.
Those are always fun.
Yeah. It had also, so my character is a gnomish bard who dresses as a male to like sort of travel safely on the road, and like, but not necessarily consciously, like, because now that she'd been in this group, like, she wasn't thinking, oh yes, I am still presenting as male, people think of me as a male, like, she just was like, oh yeah, I'm Ukes, that's great, whatever. And so like this whole thing happened where they went to a bathhouse and Ukes has a giant crush on Ashra, Christy's character, and there was just a section like, wait a minute, Ukes, you're a girl? What? And so then they got high for the first time, or well, Ukes was high for the first time, wasn't my
first time, wasn't my first rodeo. I'm a druid, I get high all the time.
Yeah. The question came up like, oh, like, so wait, you're a girl? Yeah. Like, that means that there's, like, more girls than guys in our group currently, or there's an even number, and I'm like, oh, no, but, I mean, Mura's also a girl, so, like...
Yeah, so you outed Mura, and then I was like,
yeah.
Wait, what?
And, like, Ukes felt horrible about it, and it's like, and I wanted to make sure with I was like, I'm sorry that I had to do that character, but like that's just sort of like that just sort of is how the roleplay worked out, and it worked really well and like fit with the character very well. And like I'm incredibly sorry, but
that's what happens in real life too.
Yeah.
Like people get outed without them even being like, you tell someone in confidence, and then like say someone gets drunk or high, and it slips out, and like
the conversation, because like I've had the amount of times I messed up my own pronouns, like, like fuck.
I mean, yeah, that's a fair point. That's fair.
yeah.
And the thing with Ukes and Ashra too is it was like a wake up call for Ashra, because Ashra had known Ukes this whole time as a male, because I rolled a natural 1 perception, because that's what happens. And so for like the longest time I was like, oh, Ukes is a guy, and she also had a crush on him because she saw him in her backstory. Turns out Eric pulled that backstory bullshit on me. I was like, by the way, Ukes is actually from your backstory. Good luck. Have fun. So you have this gnome bard that's traveling with you now, and you have a crush on him. Have fun. I was like, great. This is great. And so when we go to the bathhouse...
When you found out, it was so funny. You were like screaming for like 10 minutes. It was so hilarious.
He broke me so hard. He's like, hey, Ashra, you recognize this gnome? And I'm like, no! So when we went to the bathhouse...
when I applied for the game, he was like, oh, actually there's a character who has a gnome bard in their backstory. I'm like, okay, we can play into that, sure. Like,
and you had no idea what that gnome bard was actually in my backstory. He didn't tell you.
Yep. Nope. He just said there was a mysterious gnome bard
in someone's backstory, and it was mine. And so when we go to the bathhouse, and I see that, like, wait a minute, you got boobs under there. You're not packing. Wait, you're a girl? Wait, so why did you kiss me that one time then? Wait, what? And so it just like developed so quickly. I'm like, oh my god, so awkward. She's so awkward.
It was so good.
Oh, Ashra, she's so sheltered.
It was a good night.
It was a good night. But I like, in terms of that type of romance, because like they still haven't like fully like connected on a romantic level, because one, Ashra is very sheltered and naive and doesn't know what to do, and the fact that there was a reveal like, oh, this isn't a guy, this is a girl, what does that mean for me? Like, what does that make me? How do I feel about that? So like now my character has like this internal struggle of, well, were my feelings real this whole time? Are they not real? So it's kind of interesting that we get to play like on that social level that I'm sure happens in real life all the time.
I have in my current game, and again, vaguely based on Tal'Dorei and Wildmount, right?
Yeah.
Our group is the makeup of the group is kind of weird, because like, no, we don't go in for the bar with the gnomes or the humans. We have like 2 dragonborn, 2 Aasimar, tiefling, and like 2 drow. Like,
yeah,
we're just going hardcore with like the weird, like, weird stuff. And so one of the Aasimar is an Aasimar cleric who's very sheltered, And so doesn't really know like relationships or like what to do or like sexes at all.
Yep.
Like half of our
That's half of our party. We're so minus Mura. Mura's like the only one that's like, I know what I'm doing.
And of course, we have like the tiefling and drow are like, should we tell her? Nah, let's not tell her. And even the guy characters are like, no, we're not going to tell her.
Let's keep this one sheltered and innocent for a while longer.
Let's keep this one. Which is funny because, like, at different times, the tiefling and the drow, like, have had flings, and they've had, the joke is that, like, you never know which one of them is sleeping where, because they use each other's rooms, and, like, and so we get into this thing of not only, like, the telenovela, like, who's dating who romance issue, but, like, the Aasimar cleric especially did not start out liking the tiefling, because tieflings, scary, tieflings have horns and a tail, and maybe they have a tail, but, like, they look infernal, oh no. And so there's, like, this undercurrent of, like, racism going on.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
And it just kind of, like, and especially when you bring drow into it, especially, like...
I have 2 drows, like, I know that feel. I know that feel.
I'm just kind of like, oh man.
Like, with
this is pretty loaded.
With our Sunday game, we have, I think he's a wood elf, right? Maxine's a wood elf? Is that what he is? I think so. Question mark. Lip, you're in the chat. You can tell me if you're a wood elf or not. But the wood elf is colorblind. So when he sees my drow, he sees a green elf. And so he doesn't understand that drow are not considered, like, real elves to, like, high elves and other elves.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand the racism. Like, his character doesn't understand. He's like, what do you mean? You're a green elf. And she's like, I'm purple? What are you talking about? What the fuck? So, like, there's, like, she's got the internal racism. So for her to meet someone that doesn't understand racism, she's like, who is this person? Like, this is very strange to meet an elf that does not judge me based off my skin color, because he can't literally see my skin color. And it's interesting to play with, like, that type of thing. And we also do the social commentary on slaves, because he was a former slave. So, and we talk about how that's also a thing that is discussed, that is not okay, and the fact that elves are like pretty much slaves for their blood, and it gets really deep into, like, the social commentary of, like, society nowadays, and that's what I love so much about D&D is we get to delve into that in a safe space.
Right, or through, like, a fantasy lens. Like, you don't necessarily have to talk about slavery as such, but you can say, like, oh, this sorcerer is having this entire town charmed under massive charm spell.
Right.
Or, like, you can say, hey, this town is raising zombies for basically slave labor.
Slave labor,
yeah. And, again, I ran into that in one of my games where the players encountered a village headed by a necromancer, and there were zombies raised as laborers. And even the drow was like, fuck this shit. Like, they have slaves. Like, I am, like... That just hit the character's berserk button, and, like, it was actually really fun to see. Because you had that social commentary, and it was through a fantasy lens. You had it done via magic, but still, like, you can explore that.
And it's the same thing with, like, either romance or just, like, gender, the gender discussion. Just, like, things that are normally uncomfortable and unsafe in, like, real life settings, and that's why it's so important to do, like, the after talks, like, after sessions, just to check in, because, like not everyone's comfortable with romance in D&D. Not everyone's comfortable with dealing with these more heavy topics, and that's okay too. Like, if you're not comfortable with it, you just have to say something. Either if you can't say it to the group, say it in privately to the DM.
Or do, like, a fade to black.
Like, always do the fade to black, even if you are doing romance in D&D.
Well, even if you are doing romance.
Always do the fade to black.
Always do the fade to black. But, like, you don't have to, like, there's stuff that you can bring up, but not necessarily describe in detail.
Exactly.
Like, I had again, my recent session, actually, same game, there was, I mentioned, like, medical experiments and, like, a warehouse. It was very much like Fullmetal Alchemist kind of vibe, that session.
Yes. Oh.
Where you had like the human experiments. Yeah.
Not the girl and the dog. Too soon.
Oh,
No,
too soon.
Too soon. It's always too
Um,
soon.
Later on, though, but like you had like the Warehouse 13, and you had like all these things, and it was something that we were comfortable like mentioning as like, yes, you see this happened, but everybody was like, yeah, don't go into detail.
Yeah.
Like,
And
it's there.
It's also important to, like, before you even start a campaign, like, this is what JJ
Yeah.
did for our Wednesday group, that if there are topics or things that are uncomfortable and that you don't want to see in this campaign,
Yeah,
message me
then just tell me.
privately and I will
Yeah.
not bring it up. And that's what we
Yeah.
did with the Wednesday campaign. Like, I'm pretty sure we did it with most of our campaigns. If there's something that you're not comfortable with, let me know right away and we just won't do it. And that's I
Yeah.
think that's a fair
Totally.
way to
I did
approach
that
it before you even start.
Yeah. Well, if you know what that limit is.
Right.
Like,
And it's
I
good to know
can't-
your boundaries and limitations, I think, for all
Yeah.
players and the DM as well. Because what if there's players that, are, like, say all the players are comfortable with one thing, but the DM isn't? Like, you all have to be on the same page.
Yeah, and I actually flat out told them that at the beginning of sessions. I'm like, look, there's stuff that I'm not comfortable with that I might mention, and then it's just gonna fade to black, or we'll just move. If you have something, if I accidentally bring up something, or we didn't talk about it, and it comes up,
Yeah.
and you're not comfortable,
Yeah.
message me privately, and either we'll talk it over, or we'll do a private scene, or we'll just be like, okay, this isn't gonna come up again.
Yep.
Like, we'll deal with it.
Yep.
It's really interesting.
There's a lot of boundaries talk in D&D.
Yeah.
It's great, actually.
It's really interesting because in our Sunday group, I remember recently my half-orc character like went out into this mostly human city, and people were like looking at him oddly, and that's like the first time he had ever experienced it, you know?
Yeah.
Since he grew up in a very accepting hometown that was full of like half orcs and humans who were used to half orcs. So he was just like, you know, why are people not talking to me? Why are people not looking at me? And it was just a strange parallel because it's kind of like the opposite of my life. I'm like, yeah, I know why people like do such certain things towards me, you know, because as a black female, like I've dealt with that kind of stuff in my life before. So it was like interesting to have to play a character that's never been through that, which was kind of freeing in a way because it was like, I don't have to think about people like at that time, like in the beginning of the campaign before that happened. I don't have to think about him being worried about people, being worried about his race, you know?
Yeah.
So when that moment came, I was like, oh, he's starting to get that real life experience.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting turn that's going to take in his future games, which is going to be interesting.
And like, there's certain things that I don't realize are background, like, not background information, but like, as I myself move through the world, there's certain things that I just know kind of in the background. Like, oh god, like, as someone who has boobs, like, I'm aware that I have boobs, and I know that as I move around, like, not just in terms of clothing, but in terms of like, I'm constantly being seen and judged, right? Just because of the fact that I have boobs. You know what I mean? Like,
You're not allowed in our game store. Get out. You have boobs.
But it's not just that, but like even just walking down the street, right? So like,
Yes.
there's certain things that as myself, I'm just so used to, I don't think about it unless it comes up, because it's just in the background, it's always on.
It's always there. Yeah.
It's always there. And yeah, I can't speak to being someone of color, but like, it's background noise in a lot of ways. Like, you're just so used to being like, okay, I have, you know, I have boobs, or I have this haircut, and I'm gonna be queer because I have this haircut, or like, because that's a thing that happens.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I was actually telling my Wednesday group after session how I, like, we discussed, I used to live in Japan, but back then I had half blonde, half brown hair. And in Japan, if you have colored hair, you are viewed as like a delinquent or a Yankee
Yeah.
or someone that's just below like a Yakuza mob boss. Like it's considered like someone you're into shit, like you're into trouble. So I would have like, even though I was like the white person in Japan, like I'm used to getting looks because I'm white, but I would also get like the fearfulness of like older generations. They would not sit beside me on the train. They would not stand beside me on the platform.
And it
they
wasn't
would,
the
like,
gaijin bubble, it was the hair. Yeah.
It was the hair. It had nothing to do with being white, because they would sit beside another white guy and they'd be fine.
Yeah.
But they would look at me and be like, nope, and nope the fuck out, just because of how you look. And that's something that it's interesting that we get to delve into with D&D because of all the different races and cultures, because there is Drow, there is the Orcs, there is like races with inherently evil tendencies, like, or with like the Tieflings, they're viewed as like a curse because of their devil heritage. Like, it's interesting, like, even though they're not real races, it's very reflective, and it's almost like a black mirror to real life.
Yeah. And even more so when you are playing a game that's not high fantasy, when you're playing something rooted more in the
real world. Yeah.
And it could be vampires, it could be monkeys, but like
I'm actually gonna switch the topic if you guys don't mind, because we are running a little late, but whatever, per usual. Before we go, I do want to talk to you guys about character creation, as I mentioned before, because I need help with character creation. I'd love to know your guys' process on how you guys go about developing and creating characters. Whether do you start with a race and class? Do you start with a personality? Do you start with the backstory? Like, how do you guys flesh out your characters when you want to create a new one?
I love character creation. I have like 5 or 6 backup characters just that I've made because like I was bored and I was like, oh, I have a great idea. I always start character creation with an image. So I think of like, what do I want this character to portray? How do I want this character to come off as? Like, I have this one character who I haven't even started a character sheet for, but I already have like a page of notes for him because I based him off of Dionysus. Not like the modern Dionysus, but the Dionysus written in Euripides, the Bacchae.
Yes.
So he was like madness inducing. He had like a horde of people he had driven mad that were his followers, and like all that kind of stuff. He had his own cult. So like I start with that idea, and I'm like, how would that go into a person? Like, what kind of personality would he have? And I start with that, and then I match the things from D&D to that. Like, okay, well, if he likes to drive people mad, he'll probably be a spellcaster. Or if he, is supposed to be based off of someone who is a god, maybe he'll have the noble background. So I always start with like a character sample or some type of vision of how I want this person to be added into the game and how their personality will come across.
So you like start with like a snapshot in your head of like a basis.
Like I think of like a scene. Like if my character was in the situation, how would they act? Like what would be an interesting take on it that I can morph into a person? It's kind of like I start with that little blossom of that would be kind of interesting.
But kind of thing. I'm very cute. Sorry, that's my new character. What about you, Annie?
I think for me, like, so I admittedly haven't created a ton of characters. And I've created a whole 3. So I could go into each of them and it wouldn't take very long. And like Ukes was my first character and was definitely like, oh, I'm going to make the idealized version of myself, and that worked out.
Oh yeah,
so
that's usually how it starts.
That has changed since then, but like that was, I think, how a lot of people start.
Especially for the first time, yeah, I agree.
Character, yeah, it will be like, oh, I want to make the perfect version of myself in some way. My second one, which I haven't actually gotten to use, I created sort of as a well, I can't say too much because I think Aaron might be in chat, but as a character for a one-shot that he's going to be doing, and I just sort of created like a way to play off a character that I knew very specifically, and to work with that. Like, so it started as like, here's a situation that I want to be able to create, essentially, with this character.
Okay.
Really. And then this one that I'm creating right now, I was like, first I was like, okay, I'm going to think of a race and a class. didn't come up with anything. I just sort of scrolling from like, I have nothing. And then I was like, okay, you know, I'm gonna do like, and then I came across like Changeling, and I was like, oh, that looks really cool. And so I was like, okay, maybe I'll like look into that. And so I was like, started to look into other things like character traits, and I was like, okay, a backstory kind of fell into my head, and then I just sort of created it from that. So I use like D&D Beyond as inspiration, just sort of scrolling through like character types or races.
Not spawn, but they should be.
Yeah. But yeah, and so like for me, it's often I'll come up with sort of like a backstory or an idea, and then also like sort of fill in from there.
Fill in the blanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sort of.
What about you, Kit?
I do something similar where I either think something is funny or I have a really good idea. My Tiefling Gunslinger was pretty much, this sounds really fun.
Yep.
And also because at the time, this is for the game that I DM'd. At the time, we had a bunch of, everybody was level 1, and I wanted to make sure that the party could survive.
Yes! So you give them an NPC party member?
Yeah!
Yeah!
And then I started liking her. I'm like, actually, because, like, she's kind of like the straight man in a comedy. She is neither a man or straight, but, she's kind of that, like, the person that kind of gives you, like, the side-eye looks. Or, like, the face palms when you know that somebody is really, gone over it. So I'm really having lots of fun. But in AL, I also play a Tiefling, and it was a Tiefling Paladin. And just the combination of, like...
Interesting.
What would make a Tiefling a Paladin?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, to me that just kind of was an interesting concept, and I kind of filled it in later, especially as we were trying to play Ravenloft at the time. We were trying to play Curse of Strahd.
Oh, damn.
And I was just like, oh shit.
Oh,
like, there's
damn.
so much stuff I could go with this.
Yeah.
And so some of it was just, like, interesting concepts mixed with D&D Beyond. And then some of it is, I don't really go through, like, oh, this race sounds good with this class. I look for what would make it interesting, whether it's something like the Tiefling Paladin or like a personality or, maybe I wanted, as a filler character for a con, because I was making up different pre-gen characters, I made a Kenku Bard that their shtick was 80, they were in a cover band.
Cute!
So, like...
That's a cool idea.
I love that. Just like quote like song lyrics.
Yeah. Specifically, the people playing him had tons of fun with 80s song lyrics, particularly.
Yes.
So like
that's adorable.
Like, the Kenku would mark someone as like a target and be like, "Hit me with your best shot," or something like that. Like. It was actually lots of fun.
Oh, that's adorable. I love
just
that.
Concepts like that, like
like fun combinations.
Yeah, just like fun combinations.
Yeah,
they don't always work out mechanically.
Right.
But
that's another thing too, is you don't always have to make a character that's mechanically sound or like mid-max to like match your group.
Oh, definitely. Mur is not mechanically sound at all. Like, it does not make sense. He's a half-orc rogue entertainer. Like, what does that... It doesn't make sense, but it makes sense for him.
Yeah.
Like, you guys who I play with, like, that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just, like, that's so him.
Yeah, because
I love matching, like, the classes and stuff to the personality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can understand if you make a personality, but then, like, oh, they're, like, this fun-loving dude, but they're like a cleric who's like really devoted to the guys. Like, you have to somehow make that work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see,
that's what actually JJ in our Friday game, he created Anastasius, which is a half orc, half tiefling bard, but all of his spells are not really combat focused. They're all RP focused. And like he took calm emotions for my character because he knows my character has little patience and she will go from 0 to 100 real quick. So he took that spell just for my character, even though that's not really going to help us in a combat situation. And he just did it, like he did all of his spells non-combat, just RP. And so he's going to be completely useless in battle. We definitely do it. But for RP purposes, because that's what his personality and as his character is. And I think I love that, actually. Like, we might die because he's not helping us, but at least he's staying true to his character.
Story.
Yeah, for the story, for sure.
For people who really like to get into the story, like, efficiency is less important than, like, adding something to your character that will make them unique or make them stand out. Or maybe even make them more relatable or
like even just day to day,
useful day to day with the group. You know,
yes,
great.
The tiefling gunslinger I had, because again, like I had a specific focus for that character, was to keep other characters alive, but it wasn't so much that like, oh, this is her purpose in life, is just to keep you guys alive. Right. Like, there was a sense of, because the core, the people who came in at the very beginning, they hadn't played they were fans of Critical Role, but they hadn't played in the setting before. And so I was like, okay, look, this character is actually from Teldoray. She's actually from a particular location. She's a gunslinger because she's from this particular area where they do have guns. And they do have a rifle corps.
Was it Whitestone?
It was Whitestone. And also because I make no, you know, I do not disguise the fact that I like any character that Taliesin plays.
Taliesin.
But like, it also served as a way for them to connect with the world of, here's these characters that are from Faerun. They don't know where the fuck they are. And so here's this character with a sort of role who has authority where they end up, guiding them. And like, story-wise, that made sense. And so they connect with the world better, instead of just like, and here's this random fighter that you have to like find, because it didn't seem natural. Like, it didn't really, why would that character willingly go with the group that early? Right. They don't know each other, you know, so going from personality helps a lot better than just strictly function.
Yes, I agree for sure.
Yeah, when I first made Ukes, like, again, it was my first character, and so I was talking to our DM, and I'm like, how do you want me to like make this? He's like, make it, don't think of
don't think of the part.
Don't think of how best can I like, and so a lot of my, because like Ukes' backstory is like a single traveler, always alone, kind of fending for herself, does not make any sense spell wise for like a party, like, and so when I got it, I'm like, oh, dang it, this doesn't work well. And so I
know when I had to play your character, like when I had to like pretty much Jagger your character, I'm looking at your spells, I'm like, oh baby, you could have got this spell, you could have got this spell, but then I realized, I'm like, but before Ukes joined us, like these would totally work for Ukes as a person before they joined the party.
Because it's a lot of very like singular spells like that only affect one person and not anything that's at all useful when you're in a group.
I know. Because like I play bards too, so I was like a little bit judging your, like I'm guilty of it. I was judging your character, like your spell choices, and I'm just like,
but like that's a natural thing,
right? But and like, but at the same time, I had to remind myself, like, no, actually, this is very in character for Ukes. This might not be what I would choose as a bard, but like I also chose a bard at level 1, so I like went from level 1 with the party and developed with the party. And this person's coming in at level 5; they don't freaking know what's going on. Right?
And has always been alone, so it's like never had to think about maybe having a spell that can heal more than one person is more effective.
And that's the thing where like as a player, it's very easy to forget. Like, oh, I should, like, optimize for the group. Yeah, but your character doesn't know that. Like, your character hasn't seen this group before.
Yeah.
Like,
I will say for, like, my character, when I built for my Waterdeep campaign, like I said, I struggled for a really long time how to create her. And all I knew was her race. I really wanted to try the Eladrin. I've seen another player of mine play an Eladrin, and I like the idea of the seasonal change depending on mood.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I delved into that, but I played with it with DID, which is dissociative identity disorder, which is like multiple personality disorders. So they essentially have 4 people living in one body, depending on which season is out. And I made her a rogue because that's what my DM forced me into like a class that I've never played before. And I've never played a rogue. I did not want to play a rogue, but he's like, you have to go out of your comfort zone, Christy. You have to try it. I'm like, okay. So I'll be a rogue, but like, I'm playing this rogue, and each personality has different aspects of a rogue. Like, my spring form is very sneaky and very good at thieves' tools. My autumn form is really good at persuasion and, like, talking out of things. Whereas my summer form is my fighter and is really good at sneak attack. So, like, depending on the situation, each
different specialties.
I have different...
Yeah.
So I'm playing essentially 3 or 4 different characters in one person, and it's so difficult, but it's so fun to be able to, like, delve into that side of, like mental disorders. Because it's a real thing, and it's always like we mentioned this last week on Mystic Hour, but like DID and multiple personalities, it's always shown as like an evil thing. You'll have an alignment switch, you go from good to evil and at the drop of the hat. And I'm like, no, these are a system working together as one person, and they have to be cooperative to live day-to-day life. And that's how I created her, is like I had basically came up with the idea with the Eladrin first, and I was like, how can I play with that and make it different? And that's what I did with her. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. We are going over time, though, guys. If there's any last-minute questions from chat, I'd love to hear them. If there's any last-minute thoughts from you three lovelies, if you have anything you guys want to talk about real quick, probably like 5 minutes, and then we will wrap it up. Chat. Yeah, if you guys have any last-minute thoughts on either characters or just anything in general, feel free.
Oh man, just the character creation theory. People get so caught up in it, though.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard. Like, for me, I think because I have so many characters and I'm in pretty much a campaign every single day of the week except for Thursdays. Like, I think because I have too many characters that coming up with, like, backup characters... One, I'm a little bit superstitious. If I come up with a backup character, one of my characters is going to die. So, let's not touch the character creation until one of them actually dies. But then I'm also scared if someone dies, I have a week to come up with a new character. And I'm like, oh god!
Especially if you're playing in a game that's heavily play. Like, there's all that emotional investment, too.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, no.
It's something I'm kind of scared, but also kind of looking forward to. That if it happens in our Sunday group, like, how will it affect everything?
I can't even
imagine. Like, each person in our group plays such a different integral part. Like, if one of them died, like, it would severely affect the group, but in so many different ways.
I can't even imagine what would happen if Asher died. I've been playing her for over a year.
No, we'd stop playing.
Just like, no.
We've talked about this. Ashra is the one that is holding the entire group together.
So if Asher dies, you all just go your different ways and we have to start a new campaign? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah. Myrtle would take Maxine home and be like, alright, come on, brother, we're leaving.
And James would be depressed and probably, like, go find some drugs and get high.
Asher told me how to be a drug addict.
Like stuck in a bar pretending that they can play music.
Oh, it's so sad. No, I can't even imagine, because most of my characters I've been playing for over a year, except for Blossom, who I've only played 2 sessions. Like, I don't even, like, I'm already attached to Blossom. I couldn't imagine her dying so quickly, but
she's
level
so
1, she's so squishy. It's a good possibility. But, like, Callista, Ashra, Chloe, Azura, and Bubbles, they're all, like, higher level. Bubbles and Azura are, like, level 13 now. Like, if I were to lose them, I would be devastated. I've never, like, knock on wood, where's my fucking wood? Like, I've never lost a character, ever. I've never dealt with character death.
I have, but, like, I am so scared of one of my characters dying, because I've just been playing her for, like, 4 years.
Oh!
I'm like, no!
Oh, that's way longer than me. Damn! 4 years?
It was from a vampire game, and I'm like, oh shit.
Oh, no. I couldn't even imagine, man.
Because we had started off in, like, the Dark Ages and, like, medieval times, and then, like, kept on playing until we reached modern day. with occasional time skips, and I'm just like, oh man, I am so attached to this character. Like, I can't. Like, she can't.
Yeah,
She
no.
can't die now. Sorry. And also because when I was playing at a time where my depression was really bad, and so, you know, there's going to be a lot of emotional intensity and bleed over, like, if this character dies.
Yeah.
Which is horrible, but that's kind of...
Yeah.
If you invested so much emotion into a character, you know, that is a thing that happens.
I know, like, to kind of bring it back to, like, Taliesin losing Molly.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, I know that, like, each of them have dealt with character death in season 1, but it wasn't true character
but it was
death.
so unexpected. It was so unexpected, though.
In season 1, they were all high enough level, they just brought each other back, and they were lucky, they rolled well, that none of them truly died until the very end with Vax. Spoilers.
Yeah.
But,
but also, like, that was played out really well.
And it was so fleshed out, like with the story-wise. But with Molly, I think because it was so unexpected.
Like, the rest of the group wasn't even there. Like,
right? Yeah.
Like, not everyone was there to be there.
Mm-hmm.
It was so sad.
And then plus the way that... And unfortunately, like, plus the way that they were so low level.
Yeah.
Plus his class.
Yeah.
Like, you have to hurt...
And his personality.
Like,
and his like, he would not come back. Like, his character as a person would not want to come back.
Yeah.
Like, he was already living on borrowed time, is what Taliesin said. Yeah. So, like, it made sense to let him go. But, like, Taliesin even said he had to take, like, a full week of just grieving his character. And that he hadn't even been playing that long. So, like, I couldn't even imagine, like, he'd only been playing Molly a few months, and he had to take that full week to grieve before he could, like, make a new character. Like, playing a character for a year, or 4 years, or 5 years, like, and then having to take time to redo a new character to join the campaign and, like, grieve yourself. Like, I can't even imagine. Like, I'm sure it's going to happen eventually, but just the thought of it scares me. It's not even a real person, but I don't want him to die.
It's happened to me once, and... that was hard because I had to grieve. Like, it was a character that I put so much of myself into, but over time I changed and the character remained flat. And so it got to the point where I was just like, look, this character probably has to go. This is done. Yep. But, like, I spent, like, not gonna lie, like, I had to take some time and be like dealing with it and work through it.
Yeah, so, I mean, sometimes you, like, even if the character doesn't die, I mean, sometimes you just gotta let characters go if they're not meshing with you in real life. Like, if, like, I've had a character that was way too depressing to play, and I was like, hi, kitty, and I was like, I can't keep playing with it, so. Anyway, we're, like, 5 minutes away from Critical Role start time, and I would like to watch it. So, we are going to wrap it up. I would like to say a big thank you to the three of you. I know we're kind of abruptly cutting off this conversation, and we can talk for more hours if we wanted to, but Critical Role kind of has my priority.
We ended on Taliesin and Molly.
Taliesin and Molly. So thank you so much to Annie, Breen, and Kit. Thank you so much for joining me. It was a very interesting conversation that we had, and we didn't even really follow my topics, but hey, like, that's fair. It's D&D. We do what we want here. So if there's any last minute shout outs or plugs you guys want to do, feel free. Anything?
Shout out to Gabriel, who's watching this. He's one of my D&D friends.
Hey, Gabriel. Friends. Hi, Erin. Cutie. Hi, Lip. Hi, Fam.
Yeah.
Hi, Dale.
Erin, get the one shot. Come on.
Yeah. Erin,
get on
it.
Get
your one shot together, bro.
There goes
Okay, well, big thank you to everyone watching. Chat was pumping, and Twitch is chatting. Love you all. Just a quick reminder that we have Storm King's Thunder is back again tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We also have Insight Check on Saturdays at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Then we are back again with Tomb Annihilation on Mondays. Wednesday for episode 3 of Hell or High Water Deep for 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then again next week we are back again with Mystic Hour. I have no idea who my guests are because I am just running and doing whatever I want. I don't know what I'm doing. One more shout out to the sponsor, Dice Bar, dicebar.com. If one of my mods can do the Twitch chat link, that would be appreciated. Dicebar.com for free expedited shipping with the coupon code PROBO, PROBO, for free expedited shipping on some awesome dice. Also, if you're interested in supporting the stream and supporting the Mystic Hour show, check us out on patreon.com/mystichour, and you can join our private Discord. So if you're interested in that, go check it out. We would appreciate it. And I think that's about it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next week, and see you tomorrow. Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.